Okay, I think we have, let's see. Trying to make sure people are here. Can you hear me? Okay, I assume you can hear me now. This regular business meeting of the Edmonds School District Board of Directors for May 25th, 2021 is called to order. First, Dr. Balderas, will you please administer the land acknowledgement?
Yes, President Kilgore. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Snohomish people and their successors.
I think you're muted, or
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
no?
Yeah, maybe it may be yours. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes who since time immemorial have taken care of, hunted, fished, and gathered on these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and we honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. By acknowledging these homelands, we commit to working with tribal nations to further the education aims they have identified in our classrooms and our schools. Thank you, President Kilgore.
Thank you, and I apologize for my technical difficulties. Next, we have our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And next we have our approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes, Dr. Balderas, or? No.
We do not.
Okay, thank you.
This
Do I
is
hear a
Karen.
motion?
This is Karen. I move to approve the agenda for this evening.
I
I
second.
second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this evening's agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes and the agenda is approved. Next, we have our school board minutes for May 11th, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
I move
I
to
move
approve.
to, I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the business meeting minutes for May 11th, 2021. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the business meeting minutes for May 11th, 2021, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Next, we have our public comments section. The public comment item on the agenda is an opportunity for citizens to address the school board. Items brought forward during this portion of the agenda will not be acted upon by the board at this time. Questions may also be referred to the superintendent or staff for examination and later response. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the board is only accepting written comments until further notice. And I have looked, and I think we have enough time to read all the comments that have been submitted. So I'll go ahead and read the first few and then pass it off to someone else. The first comment is from Amy Eamon. As a proud
No,
mom.
Deborah, the
Yes?
first comment is from Danielle Sanders.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mhm.
The first comment is from Danielle Sanders. And it is on resolution 21-19 to proclaim June LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. I'm excited to see this on the agenda. This is a very important step towards creating a welcoming and accepting community for all. In addition, it provides support for buildings and staff that would love to move forward with recognizing and celebrating this very important month for our 2S LGBTQIA+ students, families, and staff. This work is urgent and critical to the health and well-being of our students, and your support would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. And the next comment is from Amy Emond, and it is also on the topic of the Pride Month resolution. As a proud mom of a sophomore in the LGBTQIA+ community, I appreciate the school board approving resolution number 21-19, proclaiming June as LGBTQA+ Pride Month. As a teacher and QSA advisor, I see this as a positive step forward in supporting our amazing students. Thank you for creating and approving this resolution. The next comment is from Lavon Driscoll on iReady. And the comment is, as a parent, I feel iReady is not a good use of school funds. My student used it at Terrace Park Elementary in 6th grade as a pilot, and now as a 7th grader at Briar Terrace Middle. He is frustrated that his math placement is based on this test that does not accurately assess his abilities. This test is done 3 times a year, and it takes 3 periods of math to do. This is over a week of lost instruction. The teachers do not use it for planning or deciding what curriculum will be taught. Then there's lessons he is expected to do. I have sat with him multiple times as he answered every question correctly for a lesson, only to have to repeat the same lesson 3 times in a row. He talks to his teacher about it, and she just says it's a glitch. He will occasionally get a new lesson only to be put back at the lesson he has done and passed multiple times. Excuse me. He hates doing iReady, and it is added work he is expected to do on top of his curriculum homework. If this year was a focus on SEL and supporting our students through a pandemic, iReady was an extremely poor choice. When he piloted STAR Math/Renaissance, the test took 1 period, the lessons did not get stuck, and as a parent, I was given the same diagnostic information. I would like to know why the district did not stick with the easier assessment. And I think I'm going to pass the baton a little earlier than I thought. Oh, would someone else like to take over?
I'll take it over.
Thank you.
The next comment is from Michael DeFuria on resolution 2119. He says, hello, Dr. Balderas and school board members. Thank you for your consideration in passing resolution 2119 to declare June as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month in our school district. As the Edmonds School District continues to work toward building equity and excellence, this would be a vital step in helping our LGBTQIA+ students, family members, and staff feel seen and celebrated. As you probably know, LGBTQIA+ teens have the highest rates of self-harm, suicide, and homelessness. The #1 factor in lowering these statistics is support. Thank you for your consideration, and I hope you will choose to support the queer identities in the Edmonds School District by declaring June Pride Month. The next comment is from Gabe and Shannon Gonsalves. It's on the topic of consistency in the district. And they say, it was disappointing to see that your children's experience in ESD depended on which school they attended. This was related to curriculum, teacher support, and special senior events. Senior events. Linwood and Edmonds Woodway held an outdoor prom. Mount Lake Terrace High and Meadowdale High did not. This is difficult when you are a STEM student living in the Edmonds Woodway neighborhood and are watching the kids go to prom. It was also disappointing that the district did not tell schools that certain special events needed to be maintained, and not just for the athletes of our district. Will there be a senior night for our drama and music departments? Or will it depend on what school you attend? Why allow prom at one school and not another? Why cancel it when so many schools in neighboring districts are having proms? About instruction. At Mount Light Terrace High School, half of our daughter's teachers stayed remote with robotic subs in each classroom to quote monitor, unquote. Our son has one remote teacher as well. The high school administration stated that his certificated substitute teacher cannot interact with the kids at all, even to support them with IEP accommodations. They claim it was due to the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, which we read and could not find language to support this claim. When we emailed the principal, no reply. I have since heard from other parents that their children have subs as well who are interacting and supporting student learning. They are not taking over for the teacher, but rather supporting the learning. The district needs to fix this, and it isn't too late for this year. And I don't know how many there are in all, but I'll read one more. This is from Erin Holder. It's on the topic of equitable support for students. There are 4 weeks left of school. We are not providing an equitable learning experience to all of our students. We are also not utilizing our limited resources to support the students that most need assistance. We also have not spent time at a district or school level to figure out how many of the students we were concerned about are still remote, much less which ones. Instead, we seem to be justifying this by our offer of, quote, invite only, unquote, free summer school. Providing only this support as a district is analogous to me only providing additional support in my classroom to students that need it during recess. We are taking the students that have had the most difficult experiences last year and saying they also don't deserve a break, something I think everyone from students to staff to administration is looking forward to. I've been asked to select up to 5 students in my grade who I believe would most benefit from this opportunity. I've asked for clarification of what this opportunity actually looks like and received none. It is not that summer school is a bad idea or poor support. It is that for many students, it is quite possibly the only additional support we are offering. The overcapacity in the mental health unit at Seattle Children's Hospital that informed the reopening mandate is ongoing. Governor Inslee and Superintendent Reichdahl said that only opening schools and getting back to normal would not be enough to address the inequities exacerbated by this pandemic. Dr. Balderas and members of our district said that only opening schools and getting back to normal would not be enough to address the inequalities exacerbated by this pandemic. There are 4 weeks left of this school year, and all we have done is open schools and celebrate the return to normalcy. It isn't enough, and it isn't the best we can do. So I'm going to turn it over to somebody else.
I'll keep going. I'm happy
Thanks,
to keep
Karen.
going. Sure. We are on the 7th comment from Heather Lippert on iReady adoption. And she is from Briar. Heather says, I'm writing today to ask the board to consider rejecting the use of iReady assessments in kindergarten. There is a need to have clear and consistent ways to monitor student progress. In kindergarten, we already have a developmentally appropriate way to do this through our WaKids assessments. iReady asks our youngest learners to answer multiple choice questions. With WaKids, we're playing games with our students and observing. We also have access to a large bank of activities that correlate directly to WaKids goals in teaching strategic gold. This data is far more meaningful and accurate than our iReady scores. We are also already using a cadence to inform practice, which OSBA also recommends as a dyslexia screener. Our youngest mathematicians need to play with materials to build their concrete math skills. As I watch my students play and engage, I learn their math thinking and assess where they are on the continuum. Their reasoning and thinking truly guides my instruction. As I sat near a student taking the spring iReady math assessment, I saw how they were using their fingers to solve a problem. This observation gave me far more data on how to plan for his student than for their iReady score. Our district is a proponent of equity. which means our students get what they need. I encourage you to ask if iReady assessments are truly what our 5 and 6-year-olds need when we already have meaningful, hands-on ways to assess. Thank you. We'll go on to Andrew Morgan on resolution 21-19 from Linwood. He says that there's a resolution 21 hot link returns an error code 404. The public is unable to review the agenda and comment from an informed perspective. Therefore, it should be moved to a later meeting to allow sufficient time to review the item. And Sarah Hedges, iReady in kindergarten. Sarah is from Bothell. And Sarah states, hello. I would like to express my concern about the district's push to adopt the iReady assessments in kindergarten. I have seen firsthand this year how difficult a computer-based assessment, CBT, is for young children, as well as how unreliable the scores are. In doing some research on CBTs, I found there's not much in support of them for young learners. In 2015, a graduate thesis from CSU found that first graders who received iReady intervention and assessment performed lower overall than students who received more traditional reading support from a live teacher. In 2010, a 2010 study on young students found that phonetic awareness scores were consistently lower on CBTs than with traditional teacher-administered assessments. After administering, sorry, I've just trouble tracking this one. After administering both the reading and math iReady diagnostics this year, I cannot say that I got any information that is helpful to my teaching. Sitting with a student, talking to them, and watching how they approach a task is significantly more beneficial to my planning and teaching. Our district claims to believe in equity. If this is the case, adopting a one-size-fits-all CBT because it is a fast and easy way to collect more data is not equitable. iReady may be great for older students, but it is not appropriate for kindergarten. As such, we should not adopt it for this grade level. Instead, we should give our youngest learners a chance to show their skills and in a developmentally appropriate way. Fortunately, we already have access to a developmentally appropriate assessment, TS Gold. All kindergarten teachers administer this in the fall as required by the state. It would not cost the district any more money to have teachers administer the assessment more than once a year. It covers all areas and would provide the data the district needs, in a much more appropriate and equitable way. Kindergartners are not just small 6th graders. They are developmentally very different from all other elementary grades, and as such must be given something different. Please hold off approving iReady for kindergarten and urge the district to look into other ways to collect data for young learners and to include early childhood teachers in the decision-making. And then we go down to Adam Lemieux. Apologies if that's not correct. And this is on the iReady diagnostic tool, and Adam is from Edmonds. I urge the board to discontinue use of iReady for at least early elementary K-3. The prospect of enduring another iReady assessment winter quarter contributed to our decision to remove our child from school in January. He will return next year. I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to observe iReady during the fall while our first grader was remote learning. Our child excels in math, but being the first multiple choice test he had seen before, he performed terribly. We revisited the problems after, and he excelled. iReady does not do a good enough job of ramping down. If the program thinks a student is performing well, it escalates the level quickly and takes too long to come down if it overshoots a child's proficiency level, leading to greater frustration. By ramping up quickly, the instructions used words that were unfamiliar to our early readers, and reading each question unassisted created substantial challenges and was demoralizing, leading to frustration and tears. The guidance provided to help overcome the program's de-escalation failures was to guess or just select any answer in order to move on. As a 5-year-old, this translated just clicking buttons and erroneously blowing through problems he knew the answer to. Consequently, the program assigned a skill level well below where he really was, and the teacher had to manually change this level so that the subsequent iReady practice time matched his skill. Even during virtual learning, the teacher has a better judge of my son's skill level. And I'll do another from Courtney Wooton on the 2LSL GBTQIA plus Pride Month resolution. I am writing to thank you for considering the 2S LGBTQIA resolution tonight, proclaiming June as Pride Month. I wholly support this resolution and want to appreciate the impact that inclusive, equity-focused policies have on our students, their families, and our community at large. It's no secret that 2S LGBTQIA students are often targets of harassment and bullying, and that lack of representation and harmful misrepresentation affect not only school performance, but also mental health and well-being. Pride Month lets us focus on changing the narrative, centering on resiliency, strength, and positive representation. Celebrating differences rather than ignoring them teaches all our students important lessons in empathy, community, and self-confidence. Thank you for supporting all our students and for your solidarity with the 2S LGBTQIA community. I believe that is the final comment.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a roll call vote, please.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. And the motion passes and the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have our student presentation, Briar Terrace Middle School, community building through journalism. Should I do the introductions or would you like to, Principal Morrison?
I'm wondering if we can have Krista Morales, who is our journalism teacher, do the introductions. Would that be okay?
Perfect.
All right, the amazing Krista Morales. And I just want to say that we started journalism this last year to increase student voice in our school. And Krista has done an amazing job leading our students. It was this year, right? Is that Krista? Is that right, Krista?
Yes, indeed. So I'm Krista Morales. I teach 8th grade humanities and journalism at Briar Terrace Middle School. I am here to share with you my journalism students. It's an elective, a brand new one, but journalism is not new to Briar Terrace. Maureen Garrison had it as a club for a very long time. And so I just want to thank her for setting that foundation. This journalism class has maybe been the biggest lift of this year because we really started with not much. And so we had to sort of reinvent the wheel several times. Thankfully, Mr. Morrison helped get us funding so that we could have a similar platform as the Hawkeye, which is Mount Lake Terrace High School's paper. And then when we went to concurrent, we sort of had to reinvent our processes again. But just something that I'm so proud of with these kids is that it's just such a sense of community in our class. The chemistry, the energy, the support. 30 minutes before we entered the school board meeting, one of the students who's not presenting sent an email to the 5 presenters, just lifting them up and encouraging them. So with that, I want to pass the baton, and the next slide is going to be presented to you by Galila.
Hi, my name is Galila Askadome, and I am the co-editor-in-chief of the Bulldog Brief and will be presenting why journalism is an important part of BTMS. Journalism is an important elective for many reasons. The first being the fact that we have lots of diversity and that brings different perspectives on world and local news and also brings many different ideas. The second is that we started building this website from scratch over remote learning and still found a way to include everyone's ideas and contributions. We analyze our monthly data and use it to increase our results for the coming month, which helps us prepare for future jobs where we might have to do the same. And the last reason is that we produce weekly announcement videos with 2 of the students from our class and engage the students in weekly trivia games. Our main goal as a team is to inform and report to the students of BTMS from a neutral standpoint. And if you take a look at the pictures on the slide, you'll see that the first picture on the left is part of our website. It shows some of the type of stories we post. The second is a picture of the monthly information that we take in and analyze as a team. One of the ways we do that is to make surveys about what stories the students might want to see and might be interested in. Or we might encourage the students to visit the website in our announcement videos. And you can see an example of our announcements video in the third and final picture. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Ethan, and I'll be talking about journalism at Briar Terrace Middle School. One of the biggest things is we get the freedom to post what we want, and we have to decide for ourselves what is school appropriate and what isn't. Another crucial advantage of journalism is that we can build our writing and other English skills like communication, editing, and revising. It's a potential career path, and you could find something you love doing, such as writing articles on hot topics and taking photos. Consistent problem solving is another important skill we practice through journalism. From general trial and error to being responsive to our community, we build up good problem solving skills. One example of this responsiveness is with our column, The Lizard's Guide to Life. This column gives funny responses to students asking for advice, but we have to make sure the jokes are not offensive or rude in any way while still being funny. Sometimes we have to decide on this together and accept or reject a specific response. I want to talk some about the pictures you see here. A Wizard's Guide to Life is a Q&A with comedy. The way it works is we send out a survey and we answer the questions with funny answers. The Talk with Taya is the same thing, but we answer the questions with real, genuine advice. I want to give credit to Taya Shook, who wrote The Talk with Taya, and Dominic Dunham, who wrote A Wizard's Guide to Life. Finally, journalism is a great way to teach students about the amazing world of journalism, but also getting news out in a neutral way that everyone can understand. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isaac Bauman, and I'm a staff writer in journalism. I think there are lots of ways that journalism benefits the school as a whole. Journalism can bring students together through stories they find interest in, like cars, horses, sports, computers, many more. They can learn things new or pick up new hobbies that will have them enjoy life. It can also benefit the students by giving them up-to-date news on current events or issues, like the 3 articles shown on the bottom. Along with the information that is given to them, they are reading it from a student's perspective or at a level they can understand better. Along with the information, there's also entertainment with comic strips and comedic articles, like the top 3 to cheer students up or give them a break. There will always be an article a student can find interest in or learn something from. In the end, I think that students can benefit from journalism with new information and entertaining stories to enlighten their day. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Taya Shook. I'll be talking about how we've built community. Bulldog Brief News has begun to create a community at the school by reflecting a diverse variety of identities. We have students from various programs and backgrounds, such as high caps, honors, and so on. Different ethnicities, orientations, gender identities, and classes are also represented. Everyone in journalism has a job, and we frequently need to collaborate to complete our tasks. Some of us make friends or find people with whom we enjoy working and would like to collaborate with again. The Bulldog Brief has an advice column that helps students feel more connected by reassuring them that they are not alone in their challenges and that it is okay to seek support. Students receive input from a peer, so it's likely they'll feel more comfortable talking about their issues. As the person who gives advice, I can say I haven't seen many things that I haven't struggled with. So the advice I give is advice that I would give to my past self or someone I'm close with. Overall, journalism is an enjoyable experience for all parties involved.
Hi, I'm Savannah, and in journalism, we write articles about varying communities, and we also do it because so different people can be represented as well as others. There are articles about topics throughout the BTMS in our school's community. We distribute news and engage students in fun activities. We include surveys and comments along with appealing topics that can draw students' attention so they can enjoy the experience on the website. Journalism isn't just about the community in the articles. It's also about the people you meet and the great friends you can make. I have met many good friends in journalism, and I am proud that I joined. Thank you.
So that concludes our student presenters, but they know that they are available if there are any questions or comments. And I just want to end by saying I'm just so, so proud of them.
This is Karen. I want to thank the students for this excellent presentation. And actually, I wanted to read some of those articles that they were going by. And I saw that there was a QR code that I could access the newspaper. So I'm just hoping we can share that so I can go back and read about those murder hornets and some of those movie reviews. I also did really appreciate. Yeah, I also appreciated the fact that the students get to decide for themselves what is appropriate, and I believe that was Ethan mentioned that, along with all the excellent staff on the paper. So I really appreciate the students' leadership in this newspaper and the decision-making skills that go towards getting this great content together.
I kind of wanted to ask the students what the most and or least interesting part of this process is for them. What's their favorite and what's their least favorite?
Okay, I can answer this one, and I would say that my favorite or the most interesting part would probably be seeing like all the different types of ideas and like articles that people are interested in writing in, because there's so many different like thought processes and ideas that we have, and like me being an editor, I can see like all the stuff that they like I go through it and I check it, and honestly that's been one of my favorite parts. My least favorite part would, I don't know, I don't really have one. I don't know, I don't really have a least favorite part. It's all pretty amazing.
I have to say my favorite part is probably just getting to write about things we love and sharing things we love with other students, and just in general, talking about things we love, and we get to share ideas, I guess, with other people. And I also love going and reading my friends' like articles or things they've written. And like today I spent 30 minutes plus just scrolling through, just reading stuff, because it's cool to see what other people write, and I really like that. And for a least favorite part, I mean, if I had to have one, it would be like making sure, like the process of getting an article out, making sure that it's like all perfect and ready, and like you didn't spell things incorrectly, or you didn't you capitalize this or that. So just kind of the process of getting things out, but it's really fun to write things about things you like and share them with other people.
I would mostly agree with them that the best part is being able to work with your friends, share ideas, and just be able to like express yourself through the articles. While the least part is definitely going through the process of releasing it to the website.
I would say my favorite part about journalism is being able to work with others and being able to actually edit and everything, write articles that I would love to write about in the future. My least favorite is how we're not in there every single day, but it's still good during Zoom where we all still are able to talk to each other and work things out.
My favorite part of journalism is probably getting to make comics. So I typically do art for scripts that other people make, but sometimes I make my own scripts, not very often though. But I think that's my favorite part because I get to picture how this person could potentially want it and make it a reality. I think my least favorite part is probably sketching and then converting to digital.
Thank you so much. You're all so extraordinary. Are there any other questions, board?
I'd love,
Oh, go ahead. Dr. Kiddo.
no, Ratika, go.
Okay, well, first of all, it just makes me so excited to see, like, from the student advisor point of view, just having been at Briar for the last couple of years, to see the Bulldog Brief grow from a club into an elective. Shameless plug here. I'm so excited to see that you guys are as enthusiastic about journalism as you are, and if you end up coming up to Mount Lake Terrace High School next year or the year after, MTHS Hawkeye, join. We need you. That kind of enthusiasm for journalism at this stage already, and like what you guys are doing is so cool for the future, just in like general, because it teaches you so many skills, but also it doesn't stop there. We definitely have those programs at the high school level, which is why it's so important, just because we are able to continue that. So props to Miss Morales for everything that she's been able to do with you guys, but also you guys just jumping in there and showing that enthusiasm is amazing. So I hope that I get to work with you guys next year or see you on MTHS Hawkeye or other high school publications.
I just want to say, I think the kids, you've done a great job. Krista, you get big kudos for getting this as an elective, and Scott for being your leadership and letting this happen at Briar Terrace. I would really like to know from the kids if any of you have an interest now in going into a career related to journalism or writing or maybe illustrating, as Taya said. I'm just curious what your thinking is about that.
Okay, for me, I think I have always really loved writing, ever since I think third grade. So I've always loved writing narrative stories or fiction stories, but I think journalism has really helped me go deeper into that passion. So even if it's not going to be a main job in the future, I really do think that I'm going to be writing stuff in the future.
That's great.
I think journalism as a job, honestly, I came into this as I remember selecting journalism on the paper I was given in social studies, selecting journalism as kind of a filler, as okay, I'll just do this. Sounds fun. I don't know much about it, but it seems like something that could be fun. And when I got it as my elective, I was like, I kind of wanted this or that. And once I started doing it, I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed writing articles with my friend Isaac. And just we've written many articles, and it's just fun because we can jump on a chat and we can just talk about things we love and things we like and write about it and share that with other people. And so I've actually I consider doing it in high school, and on from there maybe maybe it goes further, but in high school, I consider it. And yeah, I think that it's something really fun that I'm glad I found.
Very cool.
For me, I can see me doing a job that has journalism to do with it. Before I joined journalism, I used to write for fun, but since I joined, I can really tell that my writing has gotten and has improved. And so I can actually see myself in a job where I can write and illustrate.
I would love to have a journalism job. I think it's really fun to do now, and even if it doesn't like turn into a career, you still gain writing skills, which will be helpful for every day.
I definitely plan on taking or trying to get into the journalism club next year in high school, but I don't think I see it as a future for me. I like art and art's my passion, so I think that I will probably do something closer to just art. So yeah.
Thank you for answering. Those were really enlightening ideas that you have, and good to know that how this has sparked interests and passions that you've had in a way you maybe didn't even expect.
Other comments, questions, board?
No questions.
Make
I
sure
just
you-
want to thank all the students for the great presentation and just a fantastic program. Thanks for everything.
Can't wait to read the latest issue. Thanks.
Me too. Thank you so much for coming and visiting with us tonight. And we look forward to your further success. And thank you, Krista.
And just say thank you as well. Thank you for having us. This was amazing. I'm super proud of them. And just since I was in the meeting before this as well, this is just another example of student representation of all kinds of students that can be included in classes, no matter what they are, even if they're social studies, English, or any other class. So I think this is a really good example of that reflection as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next, we have our reports. Our first report is our reentry update with Dr. Balderas.
President Kilgore, and we'll begin. I also really want to thank Krista for her leadership in getting it up and running. I think that just was a great presentation and great student voice. So thank you, Krista. As we begin, Edmonds again, we're up and running. We're getting close to the end here. We have graduations up and coming, which is phenomenal because we're going to have live graduations. Wish we had them last year, but we couldn't. But again, we're able to honor our kids and the hard work that they've done this year with graduations here later on in June. Again, to be really explicit, our goal for next fall is to be able to reopen 5 days a week in person with a remote option at the elementary, middle, and high school level. Next slide, please. And we're currently in stage 4 of the current status of the 4 stages that we had been working towards and looking for a full reopening in the fall. We do have a summer school program, robust as it could be. I know that we are, and Dr. Baumgartner is going to speak to that, so I won't speak too much toward it. But we do have a summer school program that we will be running at all levels, elementary, middle, and high as well. Next slide, please. We do have the intent form that we are sending to families asking for their intent for the fall. There will be a chance for an opportunity for families to be able to change their status as we get closer, as information has shifted over the closure since the pandemic hit. So we will continue to set reminders and we have pushed out the date a bit. I know we had the form closing at 11, but we will be sending more. Again, emails out, the reminders to parents. I think we're about 82%, I think, return right now, as of this afternoon, about 82% return as of this afternoon, with roughly, I believe it was 92% of the families asking for a 5 days to come into 5 days in person. So 92% wanting 5 days in person. So again, this is some of our initial intent for staffing purposes. And the reason I think families are asking, what's the program going to look like? And that's something that we are working towards, fully understanding that there is a chance to change it. We fully expect the high school program to look much like the e-learning program or be the e-learning program at the elementary level. It can look like pretty much how we were doing it prior to coming back in. The middle level is where it may be a combination or closer to the elementary model. But again, the working conditions still need to be bargained through our association, but that is what we're looking towards right now. And again, we still need to have a conversation with our associations and work out the working agreements, the working conditions that need to be set forth for the fall, knowing full well that again, information keeps shifting, and we will, our goal is to have a definite answer in terms of what that looks like before we leave for summer break. Next slide, please. Oh, here it is right there. So it's a little less. So 83% about response rate. We have a little less than I had thought, so I apologize for that. 90.3, I'm not going to read it, it's right there. And again, what our response is, and of the 3% that have not responded, they're moving or enrolling elsewhere. So that's something that we're really trying to figure out how many kids actually are enrolling elsewhere. I think of the 3% that are moving or enrolling elsewhere, 2/3 are actually moving away, and a third may be enrolling elsewhere. So locally, in terms of another educational experience. Any questions from the board on that specific slide right here that I can answer any questions on? Next slide, please. Again, I stated earlier, we will be looking at programming, and actually staff are working on that right now. But again, looking at 9-12 being the Edmonds e-learning, where K through 8 may look pretty much similar to what we've been doing. Again, this program would need to be, the working conditions need to be bargained with our associations, but we will be needing to offer a 5-day a week experience for kids. I know that's something that OSPI is pushing out. So we will be meeting the requirements set forth by OSPI in terms of what that remote learning looks like for our kids K through 12 of the percentage of kids that do want this to happen. And there will be an opportunity for kids to be able to switch at a specific time throughout the year. It's not going to be as flexible as this year because of the fact that staffing is being set forth, and we need to be more concrete in terms of our staffing percentages. It's been pretty, it's been difficult in some locations to be able to keep up with the shifting of kids coming in and out of school, going from remote to in-person because of staffing requirements, and also the regulations that are set forth by the Department of Health in terms of how many kids we can have in a classroom. So that's been something that we've been working with our schools, and also we'll bargain again that with our association. Next slide, please. Turn over to Dana. Break in on this one.
Thank you. Dana Giesland, Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services. Thank you for the segue around the Department of Health and the latest guidance that we have from them. So for the 21-22 school year, what we do know is that all students in the state of Washington will have the opportunity to attend in-person learning 5 days a week. And that's consistent with what we're planning. We also know that face coverings are required for all students, staff, and visitors. Social distancing is still required, with a recommendation of 3 feet within the classroom and 6 feet elsewhere. And really key verbiage here is to the greatest extent possible. That just trying to keep kids as spaced as we can with the facilities that we have and the number of students that we have. The attestation requirements have been removed for both summer and fall instruction and programming. And, as you know, the attestation is what we do every morning as staff members and our students before we come into the buildings or any other people that come into our buildings. And that's you've probably done those different places when you go to the doctor or when you go other places. So that's a huge piece because that's a little bit time consuming. And so that'll be a nice lift for us as we move into the 21-22 school year. And next slide. The Snohomish County picture, we keep a close eye on this because it has an impact on, of course, how we've reopened and what we've done. Our numbers are going down, which was predicted by Governor Inslee when he put the hold on us staying in stage 3 and as we move forward. So about 550 cases a week in Snohomish County, 154 per 100,000. And that's that number that we've continued to give to you every 2 weeks. It's a 2-week rolling number. And you can see that we hit a little bit of a peak after spring break. They call it the spring break bump. And then now we are progressively going down to the 154 per 100,000. 7% COVID test positivity rate. So out of every 100 tests that are given, there's 7 that are coming back positive. 12 years old and older in Snohomish County, we have 44% are fully vaccinated, which is really exciting. One area of concern is a huge increase in hospitalization of the younger part of our population. And many people that are under 30 still aren't vaccinated. So that's a huge push for the Department of Health right now. And next slide. We are super excited to have a partnership with Seattle Visiting Nurses. They are the organization that was working collectively with Edmonds College and running the mass vaccination site there. So on these 4 dates, and thank you, huge shout out and thank you to Malik Terrace High School and Meadowdale High School for coordinating this with us. So, and the Department of Health. So we have these 4 times and days that we're offering on-site vaccines. You can make an appointment through, and you register online through Seattle Visiting Nurses website, but you can also do it just by showing up. So during those times. So we're working on all the logistics of that, had a meeting today. And of course there's some traffic flow things and all of those pieces. So we're getting that all ready to go. But it's going to be amazing. So the other piece is they'll be pretty busy. We think there will be about 600 vaccinations given each of those days on each of those sites. So if you need to get your first or second dose, you can show up and get that done there. And next slide. Off to Greg Schwab.
Good evening, Greg Schwab, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Schools. I just wanted to provide you with a little update on graduation. And again, we're continuing to plan for our outdoor ceremonies at Edmonds Stadium. We are working on, under the guidelines of the Phase 3 reopening plan, which allows for us to have 25% of the maximum capacity at Edmonds Stadium, which is 750 spectators. We will be required to assign seating for all attendees who come to the graduation. So we will actually have to give you a ticket with a section, a row, and a seat number on it. And each graduate, based on the size of our senior classes for our large high schools, each graduate will be able to have 2 guests attend in person. We are also going to be live streaming our ceremonies at the same time using our Hawk Broadcasting Network. Our students and our staff that run that program will be live streaming each of the school ceremonies. For those who aren't able to attend in person, they'll be able to watch in real time as the ceremony is happening. So that's just a little bit of an update on graduation, and more to come as we learn more as we get closer to those dates. And I think I'm moving it on to Dana.
We should have put that together. Sorry about that. Our on-site COVID testing is still going very well. It's on every site in our district. Some similar information to the last time we came together. But one thing I did want to share that's new is that with the increased availability at our sites, we're we are doing at least 12 to 15 COVID tests a week, and that number will probably continue to increase because we just have more sites and more people becoming aware of the program. So it's an excellent mitigating strategy that we will continue to implement going forward. So just we'll keep you updated as we go, and it just offers, again, a spot for families to give permission for their child or for staff members to get a on-site COVID test if they are experiencing symptoms. And then also there's some curbside availability also. If they've left and want to come back, we can do a curbside because it's self-administered for 4 years old and up. So it's going very, very well. And our next slide. Rob.
Good evening, everyone. Rob Baumgartner, Executive Director of Student Learning. The next several slides are an update on our summer learning opportunities that we are providing this summer. The slides here just include more specific information about the instructional program that will be included in each of those programs. The first we're looking at here is our K-6 in-person summer learning program. Recruitment of students is well underway, and our buildings have been working to reach out to families and offer this opportunity to students, and we're getting those registered as we speak. Our goal is to have students mostly registered by the end of this week. Of course, we'll accommodate a few early next week if we have to, but we have some goals of getting rosters to transportation so that we're able to have all of that ready to go. As you can see there, we're really focusing on literacy, math, and of course, social emotional learning. We're excited to have a partnership with Move 60 to offer a physical activity component and daily breakfast, lunch, and structured breaks as well. So we're excited about our K-6 offering and eager to continue planning that and seeing how those pieces all come together. So we put together a really nice opportunity for those students. Next slide, Cheryl. In addition, we're offering a 7th and 8th grade in-person summer learning program as well. Our secondary team is really excited to have packaged more of a project-based learning experience with several integrated units. And one of our partnerships that many of you are aware of is with Ed Northwest as part of the work through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And they are helping us with the professional development plan that will accompany that project-based learning, planning and development. And so, but there will be a strong focus on foundational skills and literacy, language acquisition, math, et cetera. And assuming we are able to get enough staff for the Move 60 program, we're also planning to include that in our middle school program as well. So, and again, recruitment of students is well underway, and our middle school administrators are doing a great job of coordinating their staff to do outreach to our students and families. So we'll hopefully be able to share numbers at an upcoming board meeting. Next slide. We are also offering a fully online summer learning program. As you know, our teaching staff has worked incredibly hard for a long time now. And everyone does truly need a break. And so in our planning early, we recognized that we may not be able to staff a summer learning program to accommodate all of the student need and interest. And so with that, we wanted to make sure that we offered a K-8 online learning option. We did provide a similar offering last summer. And what we heard from families is while they were reluctant to have their students spend any summertime on their screens, they also were looking for some ways to reinforce and prepare them for the upcoming grade. And so those are really our goals with this program. It's open to all kindergarten through 8th grade students. That's current kindergarten through 8th grade students. And it will run in roughly the same timeline as our in-person summer school. And it is truly a flexible option for families. The requirements are really designed to fit within family schedules. And we'll be rolling out information on that. The student enrollment process will be pretty slick. and won't be a lot of effort for families with that. So for our families that are listening in, know that that information will be coming very soon. Next slide. We also have indicated before about our high school summer school, and this is our credit recovery program. This year, we are using Grad Alliance's credit retrieval platform, and so that's a new endeavor. And under the leadership of Greg Schwab, we're putting that program into place, and we believe it's best going to serve our high school students as they try to recover credit for making it to graduation. And so that program, I believe the numbers Greg gave in the past, last year we served about 600 students, and he's anticipating that we'll serve twice as many students this summer. Important to remember that this is not the only way that students can attain credit that would make up for incompletes they might be carrying on their transcript or the no credits. There are a whole menu of options, but in many cases, credit recovery summer school is possibly the most efficient way to get that taken care of before the upcoming school year. So registration is underway, and for students and families on the call, if you haven't heard anything already, reach out to your school or your school counselor. And next slide. All right, we do have some additional summer programming that's underway. Dana and her team is working really hard to put some programs to serve some very specific needs across our system. Many students that as part of their IEP may qualify for extended school year, and case managers are working very closely with students' families if that's an appropriate option for this summer. We also have a multilingual summer program. This is by invitation, and it's designed to support our English learners with a level 1, level 0 or level 1. So really the newcomers and those that are really at the beginning of learning English. And the focus is really going to be to develop those foundational skills in listening and speaking. And we really believe that it's going to be a strong support to maintain the learning that they've had this summer, but also give them a little boost as they transition back to the schoolhouse next year. So that's an exciting program. And that wraps it up for me in terms of sharing some more details on our summer learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, are there any comments or questions before we move on?
It was a very good update. So it's nice to see us moving forward, particularly with the summer school plans. I'm sure everybody's happy to know that a reminder that this Friday is a registration deadline.
Thank you. And I'm really pleased to hear that a lot of students want to come back next year full time, as always. Okay, next we have iReady Math Assessment System report. Dr. Baumgartner, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Before I frame this with some opening remarks, I want to introduce Brandon Lagerquist, who is our Director of Assessment, Research, and Evaluation. He'll be leading us through most of this presentation, and we'll both be here, as well as other members of Cabinet, to field your questions about our iReady recommendation. So to frame this, I want to remind everyone that this is the culmination of a multi-year process, and Brandon will speak to some of these pieces in our presentation. But I think it's an important reminder that we began engaging various stakeholders in the community in a project around mathematics assessment and improvement more than 2 years ago. And one of the results of that is a recommendation that we identify an assessment system that could support our work in mathematics improvement. And so we're excited about this. We know that there are concerns about moving forward with a product like this. we have answers to many of those concerns. Some of those answers will be satisfactory to those that have raised them, and some of them will not. But this has been a comprehensive process. We believe that it's been highly inclusive and very responsive to the input of those that have participated way back when we began this effort and along the way in gathering input and helping us make a recommendation and moving forward. So we look forward to sharing a brief presentation. We provided a report that's included in the board agenda, and of course, we're here to field your questions. So I'll turn things over to Brandon. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Rob. So thank you, Board of Directors as well, for providing another opportunity to learn more about the plan for student assessment in the Edmonds School District. So I have a presentation that will take approximately 10 minutes, and then the floor is open for questions and discussion. All right, so let me start by getting right to the point and describe what the recommendation is based on the support of the Math Task Force, the Math Assessment Steering Committee, the Instructional Materials Committee, and based on the input and feedback from thousands of family members, community members, including membership of the Equity Alliance for Achievement, in addition to students and the district staff that have provided their feedback throughout the 3-year process that we've been engaged in. So we are recommending that the iReady diagnostic and online instruction in mathematics be required in grades kindergarten through 8th grade and require the math diagnostic in 9th grade. Math would be available as an optional resource for grades 10 through 12. Furthermore, we recommend that the iReady reading diagnostic and online instruction be retained as an optional resource for grades kindergarten through 8, and to require usage of the diagnostic in grades kindergarten through grade 2 for the purposes of the state mandated dyslexia screener that goes into effect in the fall of 2021. And also just wanted to add that in addition to those recommendations, we would be continuing to provide comprehensive evaluations of the outcomes and impressions of iReady from our folks who are utilizing it. All right, so before providing a couple more details specific to iReady, I first want to go back to the why to provide context for why we've engaged in this 3-year process and the larger vision for assessment in the Edmonds School District. The why rests upon at least 3 pillars. Math achievement has been below expectations for a prolonged period of time. OSPI continues to ramp up the recommendations and requirements for district diagnostic assessments, and it has been one of my main charges since being hired in the school district in August of 2016 to update and modernize the Edmonds School District assessment system. In regards to math achievement, this is an example of the type of data that is presented each school year as part of the report on state assessment outcomes and performance. This graph compares Edmonds, the yellow line, with 10 other school districts that have at least one of the 3 characteristics of being a school district that shares a border with Edmonds, a district that is demographically similar to Edmonds, and or it is a district similar in size to the Edmonds School District. We then order the school districts by the overall percentage of their student population that is enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program. We order them by free and reduced lunch program because that is our closest proxy to a metric that indicates the rate of low-income households. And unfortunately, family income persists to this day as a major predictor of a student's academic success. Thus, the higher a school district's free and reduced lunch rate is, the lower that their predicted student achievement is. This chart for 5th grade math is similar to all other grade levels and all other years of data that's been presented over the past 5 years, and those additional charts were included as part of the more comprehensive report. It shows that Edmonds is consistently not meeting the predicted or expected achievement levels on the math state assessments compared to similar school districts, such as the Everett School District and Seattle Public Schools. Reason number 2 that we began this process in the fall of 2018 is because an internal needs analysis found that at that time, the most significant gap in the Edmonds School District assessment system was the absence of diagnostic assessments that could be provided to all students in all grade levels. Further evidence for the critical need to implement diagnostic assessments as soon as possible has been provided by OSPI, as they strongly encourage the use of diagnostic assessments for the 2020-2021 school year, and have required that diagnostic assessments be accounted for in the plans for the 2021-2022 school year that all districts need to submit to OSPI by June 1st. Shown here is a chart that you've been presented with in past presentations, and it shows the research of the Math Task Force to understand what other school districts are using, if anything, for their diagnostic assessments. As can be seen, every district that we traditionally use for comparison purposes have diagnostic assessments implemented in their school systems. This is not a complete list either. When we look at other school districts specific to our educational service district, the Northwest ESD, we find that everywhere we look, the school district has diagnostic assessments in their system, from smaller school districts like Anacortes, Arlington, and Monroe, including the larger school districts in our ESD, such as Bellingham, and then Everett and Mukilteo, which we can see here as well already in the chart. So clearly, it's well beyond the time to update and modernize our assessment system, which is one of the charges I was given upon being hired in August of 2016. So almost 5 years later, I would argue that not enough has changed, and that now is the time to make the investment in assessments that were researched in the 18-19 school year by the Math Task Force, successfully piloted and evaluated in the 2019-2020 school year by the Math Assessment Steering Committee, and then the continued work that we've done throughout this school year with a district-wide pilot in the 2020-21 school year. This graphic depicts the vision that has been developed for the Edmonds School District to implement a comprehensive district-wide system of common assessments that provide useful and meaningful feedback. At the end of the day, assessments are simply a tool for feedback. Please note the middle of this graphic, which speaks to the diagnostic assessments and progress monitoring assessments, which is where the most gaps were uncovered by the Math Task Force in the research done in the 18-19 school year. And so this is how the pyramid fills in based on the assessment review that was begun in the school district in 2016. Here we see the glaring gaps in our system with no sufficient diagnostic or progress monitoring assessments that could be defined as meeting the needs of a district-wide comprehensive system of common assessments. With the collaboration of various committees over the past 3 years, this is how the assessment system has taken shape and how it would look with the full implementation of iReady. Noting that iReady would help to fill those gaps for the diagnostic and progress monitoring area, as well as providing further tools to be utilized as screeners and a potential further tool to be utilized as a summative data point, which would of course be extremely useful during the types of school years that we've had the past 2 years, where the traditional state assessments have been suspended or delayed. One of the reasons why we are requesting approval of the purchase of the iReady online instruction in addition to the diagnostic assessments is because of data seen here. The y-axis on the left displays grade level. The black bar for each grade level represents progress towards growth goals for students using the online instruction as instructed. As instructed is to use the online instruction for about 45 minutes per week per content area. That equates to roughly 2 lessons per week per content area. The gray bar are students who took the diagnostic but have not been using the online instruction as instructed or not using it at all. You can see that the black bar is significantly greater than the gray bar across all the grade levels for math. And so a similar chart, except this is representing the data from the reading side of iReady. With the exception of first grade, the results are even more dramatic than they were for math. This exemplifies why the math pilot broadened out to include English language arts as well as math. Similar to math, our state assessment data suggests we are persistently underperforming, and an assessment review found no diagnostic assessments currently in use in English language arts by the school district that are provided to all students in grade levels. This chart represents some of the latest data we've analyzed concerning the last round of feedback surveys that went to families and community. We received over 1,000 responses to the survey, including over 100 responses to the translated versions of the survey. When we disaggregate the data concerning a recommendation for iReady, we see that over 50% of families would support a recommendation, including an additional 22.5% that don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, as represented by the gray area of the bar. When we look at the question just with responses from the non-English versions of the survey, over 90% of respondents are in support of the use of iReady. Since this process has often pivoted.
Brandon, I hate to interrupt, but could you just go back to the previous slide? What was the question that was actually asked to the respondents here? I'm unclear what it means, very unlikely to very likely. What were they saying, likely?
The question was, would you support a recommendation to continue the use of iReady?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So since there have been a lot of pivots and changes to this process, I just wanted to quickly go over kind of the highlights of what's occurred during the multi-year timeline. So in 1819, we began the needs analysis with the math task force with a focus on math in grades 5 through 9. Based on that work, 2 diagnostic assessments were piloted in the 1920 school year. Due to expressed desire and need from teachers, the pilot was expanded to all grade levels K through 12 in math only. This current school year, iReady was piloted again district-wide. The pilot was also expanded again to include the reading components of iReady. Reading has proven to be nearly as popular as math, with over 7,000 students assessed in fall, 8,000 in winter, and with about a week and a half left in the spring window. So far, 7,000 students have assessed again in the spring diagnostic window on the reading end of iReady. There will certainly be plenty of challenges with implementing iReady. Some of the known and expected challenges are expressed on this slide. The length of time continues to be a popular theme in the feedback that we receive from students, families, and teachers regarding iReady. One of the pieces of data that we do get from iReady is the length of time that each student tested, and those average test times were included in the more comprehensive report that you received. And there's also a lot of questions about how much the remote testing environment has impacted the use of iReady this school year, including a potential impact on the length of time to complete the diagnostic, and an impact with frustration felt by students and frustration felt by teachers for that matter, not being able to be in person with that student to help them along with the diagnostic assessment. Using the MyPath with Fidelity, MyPath is the automated online or the auto assigned online instruction assigned based upon the results of the diagnostic. Teachers also have the ability to manually assign any level of instruction that they want for a student if they find evidence that the results of the diagnostic were inaccurate. And we do have the data shown earlier that shows that there seems to be an increase in growth for students that utilize the MyPath. But we're also noticing that there's not a preponderance of staff and students that are utilizing the MyPath to the extent meeting the 45 minutes, roughly 45 minutes per week guideline. Student motivation has been an issue. And again, we're left wondering how much of an impact our current circumstances with the pandemic have with the student motivation piece, along again with not having the teachers and other supporters in the room with that student to help them along with the assessment. The reason why I have Smarter Balanced up here is because due to the assessments being canceled, the state assessments being canceled for 2 springs in a row now, spring of 20 and now spring of 21, the OSPI is mandating the state assessments to be administered in the fall and the spring of next school year. And that will certainly pose a challenge to implementing iReady in the fall of next school year as well. And then also we've been finding evidence for a need for improved assessment literacy and data literacy across all levels of the school district to make sure that all of our users of data and information are taking as much advantage of those tools as possible and have a thorough and confident understanding of what that data can or cannot tell them. So iReady does require a significant commitment of support. Knowing that high quality assessments come at a price, work was done to include the funding of a modernized assessment system in the tech levy that passed in February of 2019. The levy resources will pay for nearly all of the full cost associated with purchasing the fall iReady platform. Funding an updated assessment system was a line item in the levy that was also included in the pamphlets sent to voters. The levy funding provides funding through the 23-24 school year. Some of the cost of the professional development will come from existing assessment department budgets. And the prices that you see on the screen here include a 10% discount due to the number of students that we have enrolled in the school district at this time. So many more details of the process were included in the report you were provided, including the appendices detailing the data that was analyzed and collected throughout this process. And with that, please let me know what further questions or areas of clarification that you have.
I'd like to respond to a couple of the public comments that we received because they raised a concern that we were aware of about the appropriateness of the assessment for our kindergarten students. And we don't disagree that there are challenges in administering a assessment like the iReady diagnostic to our very young learners. But we also feel that there is the ability to support that as we get to know students and those students in turn get to know our school system. With our kindergartners, we would not begin that assessment until the winter window. And that's an important piece. And we would not have them take that diagnostic at the beginning of the school year. The other piece that was raised by the kindergarten teachers that spoke to this was about the question of why not use the current TSG or Teaching Strategies Gold assessment or the WAKIDS assessment. We are in full support of that, but understand that it doesn't provide, in its current way that it's developed and bargained as part of the MOU with the WAKIDS implementation memo, we are administering that only one time a year. This is digging into a prior conversation actually related to our strategic direction indicators, strategic plan indicators. But it is a goal of our kindergarten advisory, which is led by Darcy Becker, our manager of early learning programs, and supported by others on our student learning leadership team, that we move away from using the standard kindergarten report card and instead would administer the WAKIDS TSG assessment multiple times a year. And so unfortunately, we're not poised to do that for the coming school year. That's certainly something we could look at in the future. And given our strong interest in fully evaluating this on an annual basis, that could be a recommendation for a change in a subsequent year. So because I had an answer ready to go for those concerns that were presented by our teachers, wanted to put that out there. So, thank you.
So Rob, could I follow up on that? Because one of my main concerns has to do with the kindergarten and probably and also first grade level. So you said there are ways to mitigate, like as kids get to know the system. I don't understand what you mean by that. So my experience, and I have a lot of experience with early childhood assessment, is that it's psychometrically not appropriate for kids, as well as educationally not appropriate for kids that young to be doing a multiple choice test. The ITBS at kindergarten, if you do literally chance guessing on it, gives you a grade level of like first grade or something. I mean, they all have a problem with doing the psychometrics down that low. You can teach the kids perhaps how to manually like pick an option from, but it's the basement effect is a problem. And making sure you're really finding out what kids understand. I'm really interested to know, what would it take to move to having WAKIDS being given 3 times a year next year? You said we're not poised there, but I'm wondering what would be involved in, if there's enough interest on the part of kindergarten teachers, and it seems like there is some interest on the part of kindergarten teachers to move in that direction. What would it take in terms of our resources to make that happen, instead of the whole goal of WAKIDS was to be giving a developmentally appropriate assessment, period. And it is. So what would it take to make that happen, instead of having a year of data about kids that is not valid? I worry about self-fulfilling prophecy, that there are people, parents and teachers and kids, who see that they do poorly on a test when they're little, and it's like, oh, well, I'm just terrible at math. Look at that, I can't do it. And it just turns them, it just has a lot of potential damaging effects. And if we could, where I'd like to see mitigation happen, is a way for us to be able to go to the WAKIDS system 3 times a year, make it a WAKIDS report card, and do what's developmentally appropriate for them.
Okay. Well, I'll answer that part, but I do want to address the importance of professional development in both using the iReady tool with our youngest learners, and also having teachers engage with those results in productive ways with moving forward. I'm familiar a bit with the user interface for what the assessment looks like for our kindergartners, and it's, I'm not the psychometrician in the conversation, so I'm not gonna speak to those pieces, because I won't be able to quite as well as you or Brandon. But the user interface is designed for our youngest learners, and there's research behind how that test is set up, so that students can engage with it with the various support tools and those testing features. So, but I do think that the investment in professional development is a critical one. But I think your more important question is about the moving forward piece. We've been in a pandemic all year. So the conversation that we were engaged in about walk-ins, we were piloting. We had several teachers that were committed to, instead of doing the winter report card, we're administering the walk-ins assessment again. However, if you think about the timing of things, February of 2020 was just after that would have been completed and the pandemic began. And so that pilot came to an abrupt halt. This year, as those of you that might guess, that this is an observational assessment and really is about sitting down with kids and watching them do things, learn things, interact with phenomena and each other. And that was very, very hard to administer in a remote environment. And so it just was not the year to continue that work in a meaningful way. At this late date, I think nothing's impossible, but we just haven't set things in motion for that to happen. But it is indeed one of the things that we want to tackle. We think it's the right way to go, but as you know, in this system, without engaging all of our stakeholders, while we had certainly had teachers that were interested, and I can certainly, I don't think Sarah Hedges will mind that I believe she was a strong advocate and a member of that pilot crew. But we did have teachers that were very nervous about the time commitment and the support needed to administer that assessment, because it does require a teacher to assess each student individually. There are other people that help out, like the PE teacher helps out with the gross motor and some of those things. But those are the challenges that I would see in making that happen. Yeah. I believe you're muted, Dr. Kadams.
Okay, no wonder it wasn't working. It's only been what, like 18 months of doing this and whatever.
I do it 3-4 times a day.
So, I appreciated all the information that was given in the reports. One of the things, obviously, that you show over and over again, which is very important, is the triangle and what a comprehensive balanced assessment system looks like. We know that achievement doesn't happen from giving a test, period. And yes, it helps to give professional development to teachers to help understand and use that data. But when you read, for example, the National Panel Report that you provided and the kind of research that was done by Black and William and other people on the bottom part of your triangle, the informal assessment, the formative assessments, that's the minute by minute daily assessment, that's where the research shows the most bang for the buck. So I'd like to know what is being done in terms of giving professional development to teachers to do that kind of formative assessment that we know is so powerful, which has to do with defining learning targets and sharing them with their kids, doing exemplary questioning techniques and using that to further kids' thinking and finding out what they're thinking. Feedback, which is the most powerful form of kids learning. And I don't mean you got this answer right or you got this answer wrong, but really good comprehensive feedback about the learning that's taking place and how to think about it cognitively in another way, as well as self-assessment and peer. Those kinds of things, I am hoping there's in the plan that, if we think that spending $500,000 on a diagnostic assessment across our district is going to change our achievement, even with teaching teachers how to use the data from that assessment, we're not going to see. I mean, quite honestly, I don't want to be a naysayer, but I know enough about all the research on teaching and learning that unless teachers start using formative assessment on a very regular basis, and that's what's consistent across the system, and there's an understanding and alignment with grading as well, that we're not going to see the kind of bang for our buck that we need to be seeing. So I'm hoping there's a plan to move beyond giving a diagnostic assessment and spending a lot of time telling teachers how you use this one data point or 3 data points.
I'll
there
let
is-
Marvin jump in, but you know, I think when we give such a large amount of time, as we should, it costs a lot of money. I want to give it all the time that it needs. But I think sometimes we forget that this is one tool in the toolkit. And in our needs assessment, this was an area that we needed to beef up, that was lacking. And so not at the expense of other pieces. And as part of the comprehensive work around assessment and data literacy, that's all part of the plan. And I know that's what Brandon was jumping in to start to talk about. So
Yeah, an example of the continued work that we're doing with building upon the solid foundation we have of formative assessment in the school district is we have several courses that are being planned for the Summer Institute this August. Courses, I'm just reminding myself what they are now, talking about feedback and formative assessment through one-to-one conferencing, in addition to curriculum-based formative assessments and differentiated small group instruction, or a few examples of the offerings that we're providing in August to continue that work.
That's really good to hear. And I don't want to take too much time, but I had a couple of smaller questions related to the data to better understand it. So when you show the charts where it shows that the kids who spent more time doing the MyPath did better, showed more progress on the assessment, do you know if those kids tend to be the higher achievers or if they tend to be the lower achievers to start with, or if it's across, or if they, range across the board? Because I could see kids who are successful on the assessment and feel good about math and love math, they'll do any kind of math all the time, right? They'll go and do more and more, and you will see a lot of growth from them. Versus what would be nice is if the low achievers, were motivated and were doing well. But I'm wondering if you happen to know, have looked closer in depth at that data to see for which kids who are all in the upper range, let's say, all in that 36 hours and above, which one, what do they look like? Is there a trend that they tend to be the higher achievers, or is there a trend that they tend to be the lower achievers?
Yeah, that level of analysis with the growth data, we haven't conducted yet, but one of the things we're looking forward to is doing a more thorough growth analysis when we get the results from the spring assessment, because another example of new data that we'll get from the spring assessment is that'll be the first time we can look at how the growth data looks for kindergarten students, because the first time that they took the diagnostic was in the winter. And so we'll also learn more about the potential impact that the program has had for our younger students as well.
Okay, so that'll be really interesting. I know you'll share that with us. Similarly, I'm wondering, when you define like the 36 hours plus, do you know to what extent there were kids who were doing a high percentage of their instruction on that system? I know there was kind of a concern at the beginning of the year that there might be teachers who just put their kids on that all the time, and they spend far more than they should in terms of just doing that online instruction. I'm wondering if if that was a problem or not.
Not that's been reported to me, and not that I've been able to uncover in any of the feedback surveys.
Okay, and I have one more question. You talk about once the SBA is given again, looking at correlations, which of course we need to do, but in a predictive kind of way. And I'm wondering, what is the goal or the purpose, or how would that be used in terms of using this to try to predict SBA? What's the thinking behind that?
Well, really, the goal and the thinking behind that is if iReady diagnostics and if the smarter balanced assessments are both aligned to the current learning standards, then there should, of course, be some overlap in the correlations, some level of strength in the correlations between those two, in where iReady could be utilized as a tool to have a better understanding of who's on a trajectory to meet their grade level standards at the end of the year. Kind of a progress monitoring tool in a way.
In several
Well, once
conversations.
we know that, what are we going to do about it? I mean,
Well, provides opportunities, for example, to implement interventions and supports earlier on in the school year when we get earlier indicators that a student might not be on a trajectory to meet grade level standards.
and that's probably something many teachers know anyway, but it hasn't seemed to be necessarily helping. So I'm wondering, do we have the interventions and resources we need for that piece? Because again, just having the assessment data piece isn't enough to make the difference in achievement.
Yeah, we don't believe that just having the assessment data will be the answer, and it comes down to interventions, and that's really stepping into the work related to our MTSS framework, our multi-tiered system of support framework. In addition to lacking some assessments, we don't have the full if-then statement completed, right? So if a student scores X in this particular domain, then this menu of support is available to that student. We don't have that rounded out in a systematic way. That's the next level of work. While I'm not putting a bunch of eggs in the online instruction that comes with iReady basket, we do feel that the evidence we've seen and other districts around the region and the country have seen, when they've used that with some fidelity, that it does add value. And so I don't want to say that that's the answer, but it's part of an answer. It's something that should be a menu. And at this time, as we build towards a more robust menu of intervention options that are administered at the classroom level and at the support level, iReady, we believe, can fill, particularly in mathematics, some of that gap.
And I seem to recall when we first had a presentation about iReady, we heard from a number of teachers who walked us through how they used the assessment to sort of, target the areas that the students needed and then be able to provide that one-on-one intervention. So I just recall those stories. Those were pretty compelling to me.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of those when, in part of our instructional materials committee, we're really fortunate to have Aaron Clare, who is an excellent EL teacher at Meadowdale High School. He's one of the high school teachers that has been I'd call a high user of the iReady tool, and with his students who, because they're developing their language ability, there's been some benefits. So he's really leaned on it from what the diagnostic produces, but also the ways that he's able to really assign specific things within the instructional tool just to enhance what he's doing with students. So there are definitely those examples that are out there. And, because we were in the environment that we were in this year, we probably don't have as many of those as we would like. Teachers had many things to deal with that were new, and this was one of them. And so while we're very happy with the level of implementation across the system, we do think with continued support, teachers will be better able to use the data, but also able to use the resources that are within the iReady tool, which lead to suggestions for instructional strategies and a variety of resources that can be used for individual and small group instruction. And those are the things that Aaron spoke to pretty well as what you heard from, I believe, Beverly staff and Meadowdale Elementary staff in one of our earlier presentations.
So as stated by staff, the goal is to develop a solid program, solid assessment system, along with, as Dr. Kadam stated, focus on good first teaching, which makes all the difference in the world with kids, and have the right interventions and extensions for all kids with the multi-tier system of support and our MTSS system. So it's developing the full system that complements each other. It's what's needed to really impact student learning K-12. And that's the research is there. We just need to model the research in our system. And that's what we're trying to create. So I appreciate the questions and Rob and Brandon, your presentation and any other questions the board may have about this.
Well, I appreciate the work that's been done. It's just from my perspective, it is very important that we have some diagnostic that we can use across the system that's consistent. And this seems to be the one that passed the test. I mean, it seems like the clearly from what I read, it seemed like it was clearly preferred over the other system that you STARS, I guess it was, that you piloted. So I'm sold for now. With some, I do agree with Dr. Kadams that it seems kind of silly to try to do this, but maybe I have to look at it for myself to try to do this with these little kids. Let's gently give it a shot, I suppose, with the right supports. Certainly not leave them on their own to suffer with it.
Thank you for this presentation. I think that, we've all heard the concerns and we've all known that this has been a 3-year process and had a number of reports on this, but also as it gets closer, sometimes that's when we hear things that we perhaps, weren't aware of before, need to consider as we, if we talk about implementation. So I think this is a good team. And I think that we're hearing the concerns, and I just kind of look forward to continuing the conversation on this too, and keeping the communication open so that we're understanding, what the parent concerns that we're getting, and also Director Kadam's expertise in this field.
Okay. Thank you. Again, thank you very much for the presentation. Next, we have new business. Our first item is a single reading to approve Resolution 21-17, authorized interfund transfer of Invest Ed funds from Private Purpose Trust Fund to Associated Student Body Fund. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 21-17. Is there any discussion?
I would just ask Lydia to explain the reasons behind this. I understand what you're doing, but I don't quite understand the reason it has to be done.
The accounting folks realize that with a private purpose trust fund, the authority to use the resources comes from the donor. And with the Invest Ed, a school personnel can identify and respond to student needs, and you don't have to wait for the donor. So it's a level of authority and control over how those funds are spent, and private purpose trust is much more restrictive. Does that answer the question? Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to go ahead and call for a roll call vote, please.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. And the motion passes and resolution 21-17 is approved. Next, we have a single reading to approve project and budget authorization for the boiler replacement at Cedar Way Elementary School. Do I hear a motion?
This is Karen, move to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the project and budget authorization for the boiler replacement at Cedar Way. Is there any discussion?
Only just a fun fact is I used to clean boilers in one of my past careers. So I just think it's just was sharing that with you as we're talking about this needed replacement that is going to be happening at Cedar Way.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote, please.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. And the motion passes and we've approved the project and budget authorization for the boiler replacement at Cedar Way. Next, we have a single reading to approve authorized agents for OSPI construction grants process. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded, and I just want to enter for the record, this is resolution 21-12 to approve these authorized agents. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a roll call vote, please.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. And the motion passes and the resolution 21-12 is approved. Next, we have a single reading to approve resolution 21-19, June proclaimed LGBTQA+ Pride Month. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-19. Is there any discussion?
So the version of it that was online originally was not the final version. And I sent the final version to Gustavo and Allison. And now, and someone had a written comment that said, it says error when you click on it, and that's true. So nobody, I mean, I checked it during the meeting and it still said that. So I'm wondering, would it be helpful if I read it with the corrected, with the corrections for the final, and then everybody knows what this says since they can't read it online?
I would like you to read it one way or the other, so.
I would love to read it. I should have prefaced my comments with, I am so excited about our having this resolution. I am the proud mom of a gay son who's a graduate of Edmonds Woodway, was a founding member of the Rainbow Warriors, and has done some wonderful work in government, not only to further, you know, the LGBTQ civil rights and protections, but, you know, doing a lot of other things as well. Anyway, have a lot of other relatives who are gay. I so believe in protecting these students, their families, and we have a number of staff as well who are in the LGBTQIA plus community. So just saying, I'm real excited about this. Okay, so I'll read it in the version that we had with staff decided on. Whereas the struggle for acceptance, simple human dignity, and equality under the law for LGBTQ plus people is evidenced by the dedicated advocates and allies who endeavor to create a more inclusive society. And whereas June marks the anniversary of the first Pride Parade, which came 1 year after the Stonewall Uprising, 6 nights of riots sparked when LGBTQ plus people, led by transgender women of color like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, resisted police harassment and an early morning bar raid. This historic moment serves as a catalyst for the LGBTQ plus rights movement in the United States and around the world. And whereas the decades since have been one of struggles and celebrations for the LGBTQ plus community, despite increased support, despite increased support and acceptance, LGBTQ plus young people still face many challenges. Without accepting families, they are 140% more likely to experience homelessness, nearly 5 times more likely to attempt suicide. And whereas a 2020 study from GLSEN, and in parentheses, Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, found that 87% of LGBTQ plus middle and high school students often hear negative remarks about transgender people in school. More than 70% of LGBTQ plus middle and high school students were verbally harassed in the past year because of their sexual orientation. 60% of Latinx, LGBTQ plus middle and high school students experienced bullying based on their gender identity. Nearly 60% of Black LGBTQ plus middle and high school students experience bullying based on their sexual orientation. And this is hard to read. Whereas the Edmonds School Board recognizes the urgency of its charge to foster a responsive, caring, and inclusive culture where all feel valued, supported, and hopeful. Edmonds School Board Policy 3210 seeks to protect students, educators, and other staff from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. The Edmonds School Board appreciates the many contributions made by LGBTQ plus students, educators, staff, and families to the vibrancy of the broader school community. Edmonds has a richly diverse LGBTQ plus community that includes people from all walks of life who should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, or violence. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Edmonds School District Number 15, Snohomish County, as follows. On behalf of the students, educators, and families of Edmonds School District, does hereby proclaim June 2021 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Edmonds School District. And in the spirit of Edmonds, that the Edmonds School Board urges all to respect and honor our diverse community, to share age-appropriate readings and activities with students about the achievements, culture, and struggles of the LGBTQ plus community, and to build a culture of inclusivity and equity, not only during LGBTQ plus Pride Month, but during the other 11 months of the year as well, adopted by the Board of Directors, et cetera, et cetera.
I want to thank you for your leadership in making sure that this was brought to before the board today, Director Kadams, and the staff that was involved in this.
Well, and I want to thank there's a committee under the leadership of Dr. Vergara and Dr. Guzman, and with community people, parents, students, staff, who are putting together a lot of wonderful activities for the month, readings to be done on video, a panel for students of folks from the LGBTQ plus community talking about their experiences and other kinds of things. So I really want to thank them for all the work that they're doing to put in place the kinds of activities and resources that will make this a reality in June.
Thank you, Dr. Kadams. Are we ready? Okay, I'd like to call for a roll call vote to approve resolution 21-19, June proclaimed LGBTQA+ Pride Month.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. And the motion passes and resolution 21-19 is approved. Next, we skip down. Okay. Next, we have a single reading to approve resolution 21-21 Edmonds School District Academic and Student Wellbeing Recovery Plan. Is there a motion?
I move
so
to
move.
approve. I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 21-21. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'm wondering, I think this is the place where it was. I'm wondering why in the chart of the various tools being used, WAKIDS was not checked for either academic or student well-being. And it's an assessment at kindergarten that is given district-wide that does both academic and social emotional assessment. I was wondering why it wasn't checked as being used in the district.
That's a great question. That was an oversight. This is not the form that will be submitted to OSBI. This is the document that we were able to produce from their website. And so when we fill out the form, we'll make that correction. Thank you for noting that.
Yeah.
I think we would have caught it later, but those grids were a little hard to complete, which is not a reasonable excuse, but anyway.
No, it is, because I've had to fill those out and they're online and then trying to put it on paper. I totally get it. I just wasn't sure if there was some sort of reason why it didn't fit when it seemed to me like it should have fit. So great. Thanks, Rob.
Any other questions?
Well, so when we now vote on this, we're voting on it to be completed. Right? Okay.
That's my understanding. Well, we are signing off on it. So with the my understanding would be that with the editorial comments and filling in WAKIDS, that would be part of it.
Yeah, so I appreciate the comments. This is a statutory compliance document for OSPI. We will come back to the board with more comprehensive plans, of course. And again, we will be continue working with OSPI on plan revision as we get more information.
Okay. With no further discussion, I'd like to call for a roll call vote, please.
Director Noble,
Aye.
Director Chase,
Aye.
Director Kadams,
Aye.
Director Kilgore,
Aye. The motion passes and resolution 21-21 is approved. Next, we have a first reading, no action to adopt policy 4218, family language access plan. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, then we will look forward to the second reading next meeting. Next, we have I guess we're not doing public comments, but next we have our board member comments. How about our students? Can we have the gallery? Yes, thank you. Our students are here. Isabel, how is it going? And students, if you would like, I have a question for you. If you would like to answer it during your comments, that would be awesome. If not, that's okay. I was just thinking about if you have decided to come back. I know some of you are back in the building and some of you aren't. If you would talk about why you made that choice. And you don't have to, but it was just something that I was curious about.
Yeah, so I chose to go back into the building because for me, it's really important to have that interaction with my teachers because I feel like online, I'm much shyer and I really need that that relationship with my teachers in person and also with other students. I love the collaborative learning and that really benefits me. So yeah. And for my comments on the meeting, first of all, I'd like to say that I really loved the presentation about the journalism elective. I wish I would have had that in middle school because I bet that really sparks that interest in journalism for a lot of students. And who knows, like maybe I would have liked it. So I think that's a really great opportunity for them. And also, I'm very excited for Pride Month and that these students and individuals are finally getting the acceptance and appreciation and celebration that they deserve from our district. I think that's really important. And I also want to say that I've really noticed that the Edmonds School District has been extremely helpful in preparing us, like me, for the next graduates for college applications and scholarships and really getting us ready for college because I was honestly kind of scared about me having to do all the research by myself because I know a lot of my friends in other districts aren't getting any support, they're not even getting any emails about things. So I'm having to send them the emails that I'm receiving from our district. So I'd really like to thank our district for that and my counselors and IB coordinator. So thank you.
Aurelia, welcome.
Hi. I chose to go back in person because I am a visual learner, and learning online just didn't feel like actual school to me. Just personally, I couldn't really take away from class a lot, but when I'm physically sitting in front of the teacher and they lecture, I can jot down notes, and being around with my classmates makes me feel less anxious. And if I'm right or not on a certain answer, it really assures that I'm getting I'm being okay and doing okay in my classes. I really liked I'm really excited for Pride Month, like Isabella said. I'm really, really glad that the district is putting on a stance for supporting the students, no matter what their background or their sexuality is. And that's really hard to do nowadays. And I'm glad that kids are getting support for that, and they'll feel more welcome and loved.
Ratika, how are you?
I forgot to unmute. Ugh, okay. So first of all, yes, the Pride Month, so excited about that. It's a much needed step forward, I think, in the world of equity, and I'm extremely excited that we're doing that. Obviously, there's so much more work to be done and around that, but this is a really, really important first step. In terms of the question, I this year ended up staying remote because just that was kind of a big change in the pretty much the end of the year. So I continued remote, but next year the plan is definitely to do full time. And I think the little bit of back to normalcy, having a not normalcy per se, but a routine schedule from the beginning of the year, kind of knowing what to expect is really, really helpful, just for mental health and for just organization purposes of that year. And I know that's a student and staff kind of thought process. I was also excited to see the whole journalism presentation kind of highlights the importance of funding and budgeting and just being able to provide that support for those electives, because electives really are the reason that a lot of people are in school and that still are excited every day to come to school, because those electives kind of center around people's interests. So, I mean, with the 24 credit thing that we have going and credit recovery that we have to do, I think that was a really, really good and important reminder of how important electives are, no matter all of that, because electives really are the things that keep people engaged in school. So thank you for tonight. And we've made it to the end of the year somehow. So almost to the end.
Thank you. And thank you for answering that question. It was on my mind, and I hope nobody minded that I asked it. Once in a while, I have to take my power, right, and use it. Dr. Noble, or Director Noble, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm not a doctor. I'm just an engineer. But anyways, I first of all just want to thank the student presentation on the Briar Terrace journalism class. I think it's fantastic, and what a boon for the Hawkeye to get a bunch of kids now that are prepared to join the newspaper at Terrace High. That's really great. On the iReady presentation, thanks so much for the information and the really comprehensive report that you gave us. I think my big comment on this is we needed an assessment process, and I truly, truly appreciate the robust process that went through to select iReady. I mean, this is not just a rash decision. It has been processed and tested and everything else. I just appreciate the process that we've gone through to make that selection. And probably most of all, I'm really proud and thrilled to have approved recognition of June as Gay Pride Month. So thanks so much.
Director Chase.
Thank you, Dr. Kilgore. This is, before this meeting, we had a study session talking about, the ethnic studies and cultural competency and such. And we've had some training recently, and it's just, and now we've got Pride Week. I'm just very proud of our district for being forward thinking and inclusive in all these activities and initiatives that we're doing in this community. And on that, we do have, as a matter of fact, there was a bill, which I just sent you some information on. And I believe, I'm not sure if we've talked about this before. It's an engrossed Senate Substitute Bill 5044 about WASDA equity training for school directors and boards. And the fact sheet just came out. It's May 2021. I just sent that to all of you. And it's about WASDA creating some opportunities for training for school board directors to become more knowledgeable about equity, diversity, inclusion, and cultural proficiency to meet the requirements of this bill. So we'll be looking forward to that, and is in the theme of the forward-thinking inclusiveness that we've been talking about this last month. So that is one thing that is in your inboxes right now. We briefly, the legislative committee met all day Saturday and Friday, and to review legislative proposals, and there'll be a report soon on some that were adopted or sent back, and we'll be considering these again at the General Assembly later. We'll have one more meeting this month. I don't have the report to share with you because it's not yet been crafted for me to share, but there's a whole lot of dedicated folks that are working on these legislative positions for us to bring forward. At that committee, we did hear, actually, I wasn't going to do this whole report. The equity thing got me going. We heard from Representative April Berg, who was a former school director in the Edmonds School District, now in Everett, and also a legislator. And we were able to hear from her directly on her experiences. And I tell you, it is so nice to have a school board director as a lawmaker, because she was able to share with us that with COVID, the expectations were low, but they actually did accomplish quite a bit this year as far as keeping the lights on for sure, right, during COVID, and also highlighting a lot of the education issues with the bills. And there's a 20-page document that I just shared with you that highlights that we'll be able to look at more in depth, which shows the bill titles, the implementation, if it's going to the timeline, and if it's going to have a budget impact, and some resources. It's a really valuable thing that I think, digging a little bit deeper with our superintendent to double check, the implications for our district is going to be important as we move forward. And I'm just going to keep going real quickly. The last thing too is save the date, June 10th, looking for our federal representatives. We're trying to set up appointments for all WASDA members, which would mean all school board members, to meet with our federal reps. Would be for our district, it would be Congressman Rick Larson and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. And so we don't have the times yet, but we're looking at the 10th. So just put that a little pin in that for you. And as we are out of session, now is time to start figuring out how we're going to engage more with our legislators and set up times to meet with them as board directors. And so Director Kilgore and I recently attended a legislative update from Representative Davis. And so Deborah has reached out to her to try to schedule some time with the board, and we'll just kind of continue moving forward on what's going to work for us to develop these relationships, because during session is not when you develop relationships. It's too high pressure and packed. It's during this time, so that they can really have a deeper understanding of the impacts to our school districts. There we go.
Thank you. Oh, that was pretty informative in a very short amount of time. So thank you very much.
Things are happening fast, so I better just get it in right now.
I appreciate it. Director Kadams.
So first of all, I want to thank Krista Morales and her students for bringing us that really interesting and well done presentation on the journalism class now that's being offered there. I want to thank Brandon and Rob and Brandon's team for all the work they've been doing. And I want to say I ask a lot of questions. I know I do. I, as well as anybody, know how hard it is to implement a new assessment system district-wide. And I get it, and I support you in your efforts to try to make the district more assessment literate. I think it's really important. I am so excited that we passed the resolution for Pride Month. I texted my son and he's very excited. He's very proud of us. And I want to just let the public know that in terms of equity and as a board, our interest and concern in it is represented by the fact that last week, as part of our retreat, we had a 2-hour equity training from Sally Guzman and her staff, which includes some teachers. And it's part of what the teachers are getting as well as equity training. So I think it's really not only informative for us because we can always be learning more, but also for us to see the training that's being done in the district. So I just wanted to underscore our continued learning and interest in understanding the equity issues as part of our work as a board. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have a couple comments. I want to remind all my my board colleagues that we are doing a superintendent review, and Dr. Balderas gave us some information at our retreat. So take a look at that. And I know Dr. Balderas also sent us a review of his accomplishments this year. And so let's get that rolling. I'm really excited about doing that and moving forward with that. I am also just really pleased, and I'm thinking of all the friends that I want to contact about our Pride resolution, but I would like to especially as soon as I get off of here, I'm gonna contact my cousin who is among the families who have been leading the fight on behalf of trans kids in Arkansas. And of course, that fight is not over, but I know that this will really make her feel loved and make her family feel loved. So I'm just really pleased to be able to do that. So thank you, Dr. Kadams, for taking the lead on that. And finally, just a little word on iReady. Again, I am appreciative as well. This has been a long process. Nothing's perfect and nothing is 100% loved by everyone, you know, and so we have from my perspective, I felt like you have to pick something, and some people are not going to like it, but let's give it a shot and see if in the context of a broad look at all the things that we should be doing to support our kids, that it will contribute to progress. And with that, I turn it over to Dr. Balderas.
Thank you, board directors, and I'll be quick. As stated earlier, it truly is about systems and culture in school districts to be effective. And that's what we're continuing to work on, and we'll continue to work on in the future based on your guidance and vision as we complete the strategic plan and move forward with this. I think what you heard today is, and we've heard before with our kids and our fantastic staff. Tonight was Krista Morales with regards to just hands-on learning and engagement that kids have in terms of tonight and previous nights. And it's all about good first teaching. I'll always stick to that. It's what happens in the classroom the very first time, and making sure that we, work with our excellent teachers that we do have to continue the professional learning, but also to have that be wrapped around in a system, as a system with the right interventions, with the right data to help inform kid placements throughout the system to meet kids at their rate and level. I truly believe there is a secret sauce to all this. Believe me, there is a secret sauce to all this. We know that. There's books on shelves. I have tons of books on my shelves that tell you how to do it. But it's a culture of the system that needs to really we need to continue to work on with our staff. We have great staff. We just need to get that North Star to make sure we're all heading in the right direction, to make sure that from elementary to middle and high school, we don't, there's no loss in student engagement. That and also just to make sure there's alignment. And I think that's where we're on our way. We're building on the work that's been done even during a pandemic. We're still continuing to work forward because, again, our kids only have one chance to get it right that given year, and we owe it to our kids every time. So I appreciate everything that's been said, and I do appreciate the board and your engagement to do the hard work that some other organizations maybe do not do in terms of engagement with our equity work and being champions for that early on, and continuing to do that. And I appreciate us being able to have that conversation with you as a board on an ongoing manner. So I appreciate you taking us on in terms of just making sure we have our equity work planned out and trainings for our own board. And again, with great appreciation, just thank you. And Dr. Kadams and the rest of the board for the resolution tonight. That means a lot to a lot of kids. So thank you.
We don't have a discussion topic, I don't believe. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Enjoy your evening.